Okay, welcome back. So we have one last method that I want to talk about, and as I mentioned in the introduction video to jQuery events, the on method is what we'll be using 99% of the time. It's by far the most used jQuery event method. Okay, so let's talk about how it works. On is very similar to the vanilla JS add event listener. Obviously, it's a lot shorter, it's just 2 characters, but it behaves in a similar way where we give it the name of the event that we want to listen for. So unlike .click or .keypress, which only will fire on one type of an event, click or keypress, on allows us to specify if we're doing a click, like we're doing here, submit.on click, or if we're doing a double click, like I have here, button.on double click, or a drag start, or a key press. So it can take the place of all of the things we've already seen with click and key press, and all the other methods here. There's a ton of them, like scroll and submit and toggle, key press, key up, key down. All of that can be done with just the on method. It works pretty much the same way though, where we need to select something with $sign first. So I'll show you an example here. We select something, in this case, all the TRs inside of tbody, inside of something with the ID of data table. And then we run .on, and then the type of the event. So this is new compared to click and key press, which only take a callback function. We have to specify what event we're listening for. So click in this case, and then comma, the callback function we want to be run. So let's try this out. I'm going to refresh my page, my jQuery demo. So we have no click listeners. So no clicks, we have no key presses, nothing happens on our buttons either. And let's go and try and add some click listeners first. Let's change the color of the H1 when we click on it. So we need to select H1, and then we're going to do .on, and the first argument is the event type, which is click, and then our callback function. And inside the callback function, if we wanted to change the color of the H1, we could do something like this, where we just say h1.css color purple, and see if you can think of why this might be a problem. So I'll hit enter, and it works just fine. It turns purple. But I'm going to copy this code and refresh the page, and I'm going to add in another H1, 3 of them, and save. Now we have 3 H1s, and if I run this code again, it says any H1 when we click on it, change all H1s to be purple. So I'll try that. They all change to purple, which maybe is a feature that we want, but most of the time we want to affect the one item that we click on. So to do that, I'll refresh. We need to use the keyword this. And remember, it needs to be the jQuery wrapper for this. So $, parentheses, this. And that refers to the one H1, or the one thing that was clicked on. And now, if I hit enter and I try clicking, only the correct H1 changes to purple. Okay, so that's how we can use on to do a click. Now let's see how to use it for a key press. So we'll select our input, like that, .on, and then we'll add key press. And the second argument is the callback function. And we'll just do a simple console.log. So console.log key pressed. Just like that, and we'll hit enter. And now if I go type a key in here, I get key pressed every time I type a key. Let's try one more type of event here. I'll refresh. Let's do something when we hover over a button. We'll change the font to be bolded when I hover. So we need to first select all the buttons, just like that, and then add our on. And the event that we'll use is called mouse enter, just like that. And we'll start with just console.logging when the mouse enters. So we'll do a console.log mouse enter, like that. And now if I hover over, I get a mouse enter, just like that. And it's only when we first enter the element. So it doesn't keep triggering over and over until I leave and come back. Okay, so when we do mouse enter, we're not going to want a console.log. We're going to want to select the jQuery wrapper for this, and do .css. To bold something, we need to change the font weight. So font weight, and we'll make that bold, just like that, and hit enter. Now if I hover, it's hard to see, but it changes to be bold. Of course, it stays bold. It never changes back. So we could add that feature by doing the same thing with button on mouse leave, which is another event. And then rather than changing it to font weight bold, we can change it back to normal, just like that. Now, if I leave, it goes back to normal. And if I enter, it's bold. I leave, it's normal. So this is how we could do something with JavaScript to do a sort of like hover selection effect. However, with CSS now, we can easily do that without any JavaScript at all with the hover pseudo selector. And I just wanted to demonstrate that there are other events out there. So all the events that we could use with add event listener, we can use with on, which makes it really, really useful. As I mentioned, we'll be using it all the time. So there is one last point I'd like to make about on. And as an example, I'm going to use click and on click and talk about how they are slightly different. So they both will generally work for you. They'll add a click listener, but there is a small difference, which is that click will only add click listeners for elements that are on the page at that time. And the on click will add listeners for all future elements or potential future elements. So this will make sense when we make the to-do list, but basically we need to use .on click rather than click because we're going to have to-dos that are added to the page that aren't there when the page loads. A user types into a form and hits enter, and that will make a new to-do. And we want those new to-dos to have their own click listeners. So we need to use on. Again, that will make more sense when we actually start the to-do list.